A couple more days left to go before you all play in the Discover Orange Bowl. What's left to do for your team in preparation?
Well, same as a game week. You kind of go 7 days out, you know, when you're in this 30-day schedule. And so this is actually, to everybody else, a certain day of the week. To us, it's Thursday. And so we talk about it being Thursday, and we just go through a regular game week this week. So it's no different than any other week.
David Hood with TigerNet.com. Coach, have you been able to keep the defense's focus like they had in the ACC championship game and that intensity that they had in that outing?
We won't know that until Wednesday night. They've practiced that way, but they've been a good practice team all year long. You know, you're asking me to predict results, and that when you're dealing with football, and particularly college football, that's pretty hard to do. They've prepared well, but they've prepared well every week. They've had good focus, but they've had good focus every week. They've had good energy every week. This has been no different, and hopefully we can get the same results.
We're going to straight in front of you through rows back.
Hey, Coach. I'm Susan Miller-Degnan of the Miami Herald.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering how you think the loss of Dustin Garrison will affect the complexion of the game, and then the second part of that question is, have you seen enough film of Andrew Bowie to get a feel, you know, for what he can do?
Well, by the way, these guys from South Carolina want to know how they can get a job with the Miami Herald too after being in this weather, but that's another story. Yeah, you know, we're really big about it's about what we do. It's about how we line up and our accountability and responsibility to do our job, and not so much about who is over on the other side and what jersey number it is or what player. And we try to approach every game like that, every snap like that. But the truth of the matter is, as a coach, you know, obviously the guy's a starter for a reason. He's a very, very good player, very productive for him. But we've just gone about the business as they're going to have a guy out there that's very capable, just like we will if we put a guy to replace a starter. Film-wise, obviously there's not as many snaps. The video evidence of the backup is not as many snaps as the starter, but there's enough snaps to see his running style, his catching style, his protection style, those kind of things. There's enough video evidence for that.
Thank you.
All the way to your right in the second row.
West Virginia's offensive line has been pretty inconsistent this season. Without giving away too many company secrets, where do you think you can take advantage there with your front?
Well, first of all, when you're dealing with college football and the depth of offensive lines, I think every coach and every defensive coordinator would tell you, very rarely do you see the same guys start anymore. And if you do, it's usually a team that's very, very high ranked, very good, had a very productive offensive year. There's just those guys getting injured a lot. You see different five starters week in and week out. So you kind of get used to that as a defensive coach. And then there's always games where protections are a problem, and then the next game it's not for them. So you kind of say, well, is it who they're playing or is it them? They're very capable. They're what I call a typical West Virginia offensive line. I've coached against them before. Very capable of doing the job. As far as how to attack those, I mean, we've got enough in our repertoire that if something doesn't work, we can draw from another well. I'm sure you that.
We're going to go in the back row on your left.
Coach, just talk about what makes this offense you're facing so special, their strengths, and what are you going to key on, I guess, come bowl night? Well,
you know, the best way to describe it for the person who doesn't have to defend it is it's in some ways like playing in Canada. You know, there's 12 men and 2 guys in motion. I mean, that's not the way we play American football, but it almost looks like that sometimes because it goes very fast. They're spread out. They leave 2 open edges all the time. You know, there's football coaches that I've coached with who said you can't play a football game and leave 2 open edges all the time and throw the football. But they do it, and they do it very effectively. And I think the big thing is when you've got a quarterback that gets the ball out of his hand, is accurate with his throws, and the route runners are quick, catch the ball on the run, and then get yardage after the catch, it can be very effective. It's been very effective for Mummy, Leach, you know, those guys, and it's a tough offense to defend. Now, just like, hopefully, for us, it's harder to defend in a week than it is in 30 days, I'll tell you that.
Next question for Coach Steele. Right down here in the front.
Grantland Rice. Given that they do things so quickly and Smith won't hold the ball for very long, it kind of takes away some of what you guys do well when you're at your best, and that's the pressure getting to the quarterback, forcing him to do things outside his comfort zones. Do you do then something different with the back seven?
I'm not sure I understand.
To find a way to keep things in front of you, or do you stick with what you do well?
Well, you know, we're going to dance with the one that brung us. I mean, we do what we do, and you know, we're multiple, and we're going to pressure you, and we're going to play split safety in the middle of the field coverage zone, and that's what we do. In terms of the speed of it, you know, there's so much no-huddle offense in college football now. In fact, our offense is no-huddle. We practice against it all camp. We practice against it in spring. So we have a system of getting our calls in and get them in fast. You know, just make sure you get lined up, and then it allows you to do what you got to do, however, you know, whatever that is.
All right, to go again on your left in the back row.
The general consensus is that bowl practices give you time with some of the younger players who maybe you haven't spent time with during the season. Has that been the case for you, getting these younger guys some work? And if so, who are some that have kind of stood out to you?
Well, I mean, the redshirt guys you're talking about, right. After practice. Right. You know, there's no 4-hour rule in terms of there's no 20-hour rule in the week. There's no spring practice, 15 days, 3 of them in pads, can't tackle here, can't tackle that. You can practice like you used to could. And so we do have an after practice with the young guys. And you know the names of those guys. If I sat up here and just started going down the list, we've got young guys that are very capable, some of them that could have played, you know, like Cortez. You know, he got a lot of work at corner, did a great job. And you can see he's going to be a very good player. But and just go B.J. Goodson and Walls and right on down the list. And we actually kept some of the younger guys like Teak and Barnes and those guys and let them do that too, because they've had reps and they've had game reps, but not like a starter.
Straight in front of you, row 2.
Do you plan on starting Xavier again at safety, and how do you feel like he's done since making the transition over from cornerback?
No, I'm not going to tell you who's going to start at safety. No, I'm just really, Xavier hadn't started. He didn't in the championship game. Did not start at safety. So that, you know, he has the ability to play there if we need him there. He's kind of the utility guy. He can play nickel or star. He can play money. He can play corner. He can play safety. He's the one guy that can play everything back there. And so he may be in it any of those, or maybe just 1 or 2 of those.
And over here to your left in the second row.
Kevin, can you give an idea or your take on how your cornerbacks and defensive backs have progressed this season in terms of playing the ball in the air and defending the pass?
I'm not sure I follow you.
I'm just wondering how they've progressed, just playing the ball in the air, just pass coverage.
Are you insinuating they were bad at it?
No, I'm just wondering what.
Have they gotten better or worse?
Neither.
I'm not following.
I just want you to.
Well, I mean, we've got guys with good ball skills. You know, we got one in particular that has some, you know, contact issues, and not in terms of contact as in vision. But our DBs, you know, that's one of the things that when we look at a DB, ball skills is very, very important. And you know, we do that. But then again, too, we're a matched team, play a lot of man, and you know, if you're not in dominant position man, you better be playing the man and the ball later. If you get in dominant position, then you get your eyes around and play the ball. And you know, so they do a good job of that.
Third row back straight in front of you.
Hi, Coach. Jen Menendez from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. There's been a few games this year where West Virginia has struggled to move the ball through the course of the game, and then at the very end, the 11th hour, fourth quarter, they really put together a drive that has won the game. Is there any way to prepare for something like that heading into a game?
Yeah, there's a great way. have more points than they can catch up with who. That's a great way. So, yeah, we're a big, you know, we emphasize 2-minute a lot. We practice against our offense in 2-minute situation, ones against ones every week on Wednesday, and we actually set the clock different times. 1:53, they've got one timeout and 60 yards to go. Then the next time we may go, for the twos, it may be put the ball at the 50. They need a field goal. They got no timeouts. They got 42 seconds to go. We practice that against our offense, and then we do it twice a week. I'm sorry, in the bowl practice we did it twice a week, but in the season once, where we actually do the same thing with the scout team. And so we practice 2-minute a lot, and we have a system of doing that, quick calls and obviously tackling bounds, those kind of things. So yeah, we've got a system in place for that, and we've been a good 2-minute team over the 3 years that we've been there.
Back over here to your left, third row.
David Scott from the Charlotte Observer. Kevin, can you talk a little bit more about Geno and what makes him so dangerous and special back there?
Well, he's very athletic. He does a really, really good job, and this goes back, you know, having played against this offense at Kentucky, and then Oklahoma, Texas Tech, you know, now. I mean, it's not the first time you've seen different quarterbacks in it. He does a great job at what we call catch and throw. You know, he's got good field vision because, you know, when you're in the gun all the time, people don't realize when you're underneath the center, you got your eyes down the field. So you take the snap and you're seeing what's there. You know there's middle of the field coverage. Your eyes are always downfield. But when you're in the gun all the time, at some point in time, I mean, you got to watch the ball into your hands. It's kind of hard to catch that ball if it, you know, because you see it kind of go around the clock in terms of where it's at. He does a great job of getting the ball caught and getting his eyes on his reads and then getting the ball out very quick. And then he's very accurate with his throws, very accurate with his throws. And he has the ability to scramble. I've known him since he was in high school, so I know what he can do with his legs. But he really does. He's more of an NFL style in that he scrambles to throw. He's going to look to throw it first. As soon as I say that, then he'll scramble for 80 yards Wednesday night. But he does scramble to throw.
We're going to go back to Susan.
Hey, Coach. Can you talk a little bit about Andre Branch, how he sets the tone, and you know, what's special about him?
Setting the tone is an understatement with Andre, and you'll get to talk to him here in a minute, and you'll understand that. There are certain people that wake up and, you know, they're just not in a very good mood. He either talks in his sleep or he wakes up talking. And most of the time it's pretty positive, pretty high energy. He sets the tempo for the defense. His personality is very infectious for the group. He's very high energy, high motor, loves to play the game. The amazing thing about Andre that there's a lot of people that get ready to play at a high level, you know, on Saturday or Sunday, but there's very few that come to practice every day, and you can just tell he either loves being outside or loves being around the guys, or he loves football. One of the three. It's got to be something, because when he comes to practice, he hits the field energetic, and it's contagious, and that, I think, makes him, that's the first thing that makes him the player he is. He can run very well. He's got a good football IQ. He understands the game. It comes easy to him. He's not a high-rep guy. You can pass him on the bench. You can pass him in the hallway and say, you know, Andre, on so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so, we want you to, you know, undercut the guard and then post the center. Gotcha. And, you know, some guys can't do that. I mean, you can draw it, you can walk through it, you can practice it, and they got erasers. They just erase it out of their head, and next day you reteach it. Andre's kind of a guy that he just gets the game. So he's a lot of fun to coach in that regard. And then he's got the talent to play at a higher level than just a gift to play at a higher level than some people can play.
All right, we're going to keep Coach Steele up here for a little while longer, but we're also going to open up the player interview room. So if you want to start making your way out there, and then we will take the next question in this room in just a moment.
Kevin, this West Virginia offense has been described by its own coaches as being pretty simple. I think they installed the basics in 3 days. in spring practice? I mean, in what ways is it simple, and how does that simplicity lead to effectiveness?
Well, I mean, their running game is based off of the zone or what we call the O play, where they're going to pull a lead blocker because they're in one back a lot. Their lead blocker becomes the offside guard. So they'll pull or they'll just run the zone. Then there's the screens built into it, the H screen, the jailbreak wide receiver inside screen, and then the now screen where they just pick it up and throw it out there. And then they've got their down the field passing game, which gets into the vertical stretch game. But then their intermediate to deep passing game is all built off of what we call the crash 6 or crash 7, where you got an inside cut and a 7 cut, out cut with a kind of what people used to call the old days, you know, the corner route or the post route. I mean, that's what it's kind of, or dig, I'm sorry. It's kind of, when you see that and you watch tape as much as 30 days of watching it, I mean, it's got to where now I've seen the play so much, it's not even, you see them line up and you kind of know, okay, it's the Pittsburgh game, it's on the 43-yard line, it's 3rd and 7, okay, here's the play, and the guy's going to fall down. I mean, you just know. But in seeing all that, there's a lot of routes that are just run over and over and over and over and over and over and over through the course of the year. And in that regard, I think that's what, you know, Dana's talking about. I don't know, you'd have to ask him. But from a defensive perspective, I mean, it's based on high-tempo execution. That's what it's based on.
I'll go one seat in front, right in the front row.
Kevin, I don't know how sentimental you get about this kind of stuff. Probably not at all. But you've been to the Orange Bowl a couple times in your career. Have you talked to the guys about your experiences and what it could mean for them and the memory that they could take out of this if they would go in and play at peak?
Well, I think this is 8. I think 7 or 8. And that either means that you've been with really, really good teams or you're getting older, and both of those are true. When you coach at Nebraska, Florida State, Alabama, and Clemson, obviously you've got good teams, so they bring you to games like the Orange Bowl. I think the Nebraska run, I think, was 4 or 5 in a row. So you get kind of familiar with the Orange Bowl. I love coming here, personally. I have not talked to them about it since we captured the championship. But before we went to Charlotte to the ACC championship, I did talk to them about, you know, the Orange Bowl experience and what it meant. And you know, even at that point in time, what an Orange Bowl championship trophy, means and the memories of that. But that was before the championship game in Charlotte, not since.
And how about, you talk about Branch and his enthusiasm. How about a guy like a Thompson and Rennie Moore and some of the other seniors who are in their last roundup? Do you see anything special in the way they've approached this, or do you talk to them about, hey, remember, or do you remind them, or do they need to be reminded this is the last go-around for them?
No, I think they don't need to be reminded. In fact, what you hear out there when they're stretching before practice on the bus, going out to practice, that kind of stuff, coming back from it, you hear them talking about it. That's pretty standard in my time in coaching bowl games, in particular, because you're in a hotel, you're not at home. You know, when you end the season without going to a bowl game, then you don't hear all that. But once you get to a place like this and you ride to practice on the bus for 15 minutes or ride back for 15 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever, you got the functions, you're in the hotel, so you're around them. We're already around them a bunch, but now you're actually living with them and riding in vehicles with them all the time. You hear a lot more, and that's when you hear them talking about the sentimental things that, you know, this is my last game and I want this to happen. This is my last game. I want to do this. You know, some of it is very emotional, and some of it's very true, and then some of it's like, you know, hey, coach, now if I score in this game, you know I'm going to spike the ball. You know, no, you're not going to spike the ball. You know, I don't know, you can't suspend them for a game if they do it, though, because they're done. You guess who it was. You guess. That sounds more like Rennie, doesn't it?
Coach, I think most people envision this game as a shootout. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, do you have any reason to think it might not be a shootout? And also, is that is that frustrating for a defensive coordinator? Everybody talks about the offense.
No.
Offenses.
I've been doing this long enough to know now that the external factors, it is what it is. I mean, the people who write newspapers, the people who do the TV shows, they have to have something to talk about. They've got to pick a lane. They just can't go in there and say, well, we've got this matchup and let's kind of see how it comes out. They've got to kind of create something to, get people's attention. And so they pick, and they don't know any more than we know. I mean, is it going to be a shootout? Is it not going to be a shootout? I think the greatest example of that is last year's national championship game, Oregon and Auburn. I mean, I think if you'd listened to all the things or read all the things that were written about that game, you would have probably thought that game was going to end somewhere around 54 to 52. And they struggled to score any points. And so what you figure out as coaches is that's kind of irrelevant. You just kind of, just go with it.
Kevin, you've spent a lot of time in South Florida over the years, and there's a lot of South Florida kids on the West Virginia roster, some on the Clemson roster. And I think you've talked about this region being almost oversaturated and people recruiting and whatnot. I was just curious how your approach has changed and, looking at prospects, looking for kids, evaluating, targeting, that sort of thing.
I didn't understand. How do we...
I guess as more people have come down here and recruited this area, how have you changed your approach to targeting kids?
Not really a whole lot. I recruited the Dade Broward area since 1983, 84. So, I can actually drive to every high school in Dade and Broward County pretty much without a GPS, and I can find my hotel without a GPS, so I know what I'm doing. In that regard, I've always just kind of thought that, there's a lot of talent here, and you've got to find the guys that fit your program. That varies from where you're at. When I was at Florida State, obviously it was in the state area, so we were mass recruiting, trying to get everybody. But because your needs get filled in state or closer to home, then that has a predictor on who you recruit from this area. We're just now getting back into this area, even though I've had the area. It's just what's really changed in recruiting now, particularly if you're a coordinator, with 9 coaches plus the head coach, 10 recruiters, and you can only have 7 on the road at a time. Somebody's got to stay home. Well, guess who gets to stay home? The coordinators. And so it does affect your recruiting as an area recruiter, not so much as a defensive recruiter, because I see all the defensive players, but there's players here, and you just gotta know who you're dealing with and what you're getting. But that's no different if it's in state or out state.
Follow up? Any other questions? No, I'm good. Okay, and we'll wrap it up. Coach Steele, thank you very much. Good luck in the Discover Orange Bowl.
Last time I saw one of those, I was sitting in a box and there was a judge sitting beside me. That's a whole other story.
That's where she goes after this.
What is it?
She's taking notes on word for word. Same thing as a paralegal does. Yeah. And then.
No, I was not in trouble, T. I did not do anything wrong. I was a witness.